A human chain stretched for dozens of kilometers across central Hong Kong, thousands joining their hands and their voices. This latest manifestation of their pro-democracy movement inspired by a similar scene exactly 30 years ago. The so-called Baltic Way protest. More than 1 million Estonians, Latvians, and Lithuanians formed what was then the longest human chain in history, part of their push for independence from the Soviet Union. Protesters here using the same tactic, hoping for a similar result.
We are here to let the world know Hong Kong people are united and we step up to fight against the communist regime.
But the longer this fight drags on, the greater the casualties.
3 months of these protests and occasional clashes with police have had devastating consequences on the economy in this city, and the ripple effects have been felt right across the ocean.
The protests are having a big economic impact.
The former head of the Canadian Chamber of Commerce notes that Canadian businesses have deep roots across many sectors of Hong Kong's economy, from finance to retail. This Canadian-style restaurant has seen a bite taken out of its business since the demonstrations began, with some customers staying home to avoid becoming caught in the clashes. The number of tourists here has dropped by 1/3, while the market has tumbled by more than 1/4.
Business requires a degree of certainty to mitigate risk, and this is a risky environment.
But even more damaging than the protests themselves is the resulting geopolitical battle. This week, the Chinese detained this Hong Kong citizen who works for the British consulate, claiming he'd solicited a prostitute. The Chinese Foreign Ministry warned that anyone with a hidden agenda or who's hatching a sinister plot should expect to be arrested. Following his detainment, the Canadian consulate has now suspended business trips to China for its local staff. And they're not alone.
There are a lot of people that are canceling their business trips to China. You know, it's become a little bit of a no-go zone. I've canceled my trip that I was supposed to take to China for business next month. It's just not worth it.
Some Hong Kong businesses are also facing pressure to silence their staff.
My 17 years of career finished.
This flight attendant says she was fired for posting messages of support for the protesters on Facebook. And some Canadian expats tell Global News they've been warned by their employers not to attend these demonstrations. That's why some here cover their faces, afraid of losing their jobs or worse. Jeff Semple, Global News, Hong Kong.